Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. We're currently waiting for a verdict in the Chad Daybell case. Yes, 2 p.m. here in the afternoon when I'm recording this. There was a jury question earlier. One of the jury instructions was missing, and so the judge said, "Yeah, you're right. It's missing." So the judge made sure that they had the jury instruction. He read it to them, brought them into the courtroom. He read it to them and sent them back to continue their deliberations. I think they're close to about 6 hours into their deliberations right now. So, and it's only 1 p.m. their time over where they're at in Boise, Idaho. But today I'm covering the trial, day 2 of the trial of David Swift. Now, this is a really interesting case. He has been charged. He was indicted by a grand jury in 2022, August of 2022, 11 years after his wife goes missing. Her body is found 40 days after she goes missing, and it takes them 11 years to get an indictment on this guy. By then, David Swift, he's currently 55 years old. He's found in Alabama. He remarried. He moved to Alabama, raised his kids. He's got 4 kids. They had 4 kids. Him and Karen had 4 children. The boys at the time that this occurred were 21 and 18. Because early on in their marriage, they got a divorce. 7 months later, they got back together and remarried on their anniversary of their first marriage, and were married for a total of 22 years, and then had 2 more children after they got back together. Those girls, at the time of Karen's missing alleged murder, they were 6 and 9 years old. So 4 children. The boys were grown, kind of, as grown up as they can be at that age, 18 and 21. So in any case, they find him in Alabama, leaving his attorney's office. He's arrested. He was extradited back to Dyer County, Tennessee. This is a little town. The county, the population 37,000 in this county. So a very small populated county up in the northwest corner of Tennessee, bordering on the state of Missouri. The Smith family had moved from Arkansas to Tennessee after it was learned that she had an affair, but it was his affair that broke him up the first time. That's when they got divorced the first time, when she discovered his 3-year-long affair and child born to that affair. And he said it was somebody he worked with. So they get back together. They have the 2 more girls, and 6 years after they're back together, he finds out she's the one having an affair. So they moved to Arkansas. They reconcile. They moved to Arkansas, married a total of 22 years. She starts partying. So during yesterday's testimony, there were 3 law enforcement officers called to the stand. I'm going to walk you through their testimony, which will give us an idea of what was going on that day that she disappeared. It was Saturday night going into Sunday morning. Sunday morning, he wakes up, no Karen. So on the first officer, he's with the Dyer County Sheriff's Office. He responded to a call, and he believed it was David Swift's phone call that he responded to. He responded to the corner of Harness and I forgive me, I didn't get the name of the other road. It was at this intersection that was just down the street from where the Swift family lived. So apparently, well, we'll get to what his story is. Anyway, this officer, he said that he responds to that intersection. There is an abandoned vehicle there, that it is locked. It's a Nissan Murano. I had one of those. I loved that car. Greatest car. Best car I ever had. Expensive. It's not a cheap car. Beautiful car, though. Anyway, it's an SUV. So it's there. It's parked. She's not there. It was mentioned by somebody during their testimony that there was no person there. So when this officer gets there, he says the key. When this officer gets there, he finds that David is there, and so is Kathy and Bill. Kathy and Bill are become key witnesses in this trial. So the vehicle had a flat tire on the front side of on the front passenger side. There was a flat tire, and it was pulled off the road. So David was present there, and so this guy calls his sergeant and says, I've got this vehicle here. So the sergeant responds to the scene, and that's the next person that's going to take the stand. So he took a statement. He didn't take a statement, but he said to David, what's going on? Because he's the first officer there, and David tells him, well, I woke up at 10:30, and the girl said, Mom's not here. So he said that he last saw her at 2 a.m. when she came home with Ashley from her sleepover, and he came downstairs. She had just asked for a divorce about 3 weeks prior to this, but they were still living in the same house. He was living upstairs. She was staying in a bedroom downstairs. So he said Keely, their youngest daughter, was up in the bed with him. So he comes down at 2 a.m. when he hears her, and to check on Ashley, because she wanted to come home from the sleepover, and they don't know why. So he checked on her. Is she okay? Yes. And, we're going to bed. Okay, I'm going back to bed. He goes back to bed. What was she wearing? She was wearing jeans and a gray coat. So this officer was asked to describe David, and he says, nothing out of the ordinary. But he was on crutches and he had a knee brace on. And David does explain during his police interview that he had surgery, a knee replacement back in April, and had re-injured it just recent to this event, his wife going missing. So he was having to use the crutches again. So the officer, at some point, because the vehicle was locked, and there was David was not, he was coming and going apparently, because he said he doesn't think he had the keys with him then, but he was asked, well, did he go home and get them? And that wasn't clear to me. Anyway, this officer gets the keys. He goes into the vehicle, and he said that when he got into the vehicle, he did not have to move the seat to get in. And this guy is 6'2". This guy, gorgeous police officer. Oh, really cute. But he didn't have to move the seat. 6'2". So I don't know how tall Karen is or was, and I don't know how tall David was. I'm assuming he's taller than her, and that's why the prosecution is bringing this out, is that, this officer gets in, he doesn't have to move the seat up or back. If that was Karen's vehicle and she was driving it and she was shorter, obviously the seat would be closer to the steering wheel. Apparently it's not. So who was driving that vehicle? That's a big question. We don't know. But on the floorboard, he found, the driver's floorboard, a pair of black boots and a mini skirt. Okay. And all of this was taken into evidence. It was all left in the vehicle. That he didn't really extensively search the vehicle, because he had called his sergeant. The sergeant was on his way. The sergeant ends up calling the investigator for the sheriff's office, and the investigator, who's out of town, he's in Memphis, because he testified too yesterday. He was out of town in Memphis. This is a Sunday morning. Something with his pastor being sick, and he's, when he comes back on Monday, he'll handle it. He says, but just secure the vehicle and get it impounded, tow it back to the sheriff's office, and then they had it towed from the sheriff's office to the TBI, which is the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. There's always a state bureau of investigation that, because a lot of these counties, smaller counties, they're not equipped to deal with these kind of investigations, this kind of crime scene technology. Even did I say this is back in 2011? This is when it occurred, October of 2011. Yeah. So, we all had cell phones back then, but not the technology that they have today. Today, you could probably knock on all the neighborhood doors and get Ring cameras and find out where Karen went in the middle of the night, because nobody else knows where she went. And David had said it's not unusual for him to get up and her not to be there. So this officer that was on the stand was told by his sergeant, just take photographs of the vehicle. So he took photographs of the inside of the vehicle, outside of the vehicle. These were not published for the camera to see, the law and crime camera, or whoever's covering in the courtroom. But they were handed to the jurors to look at. So we all had to sit and wait while the jurors pass the photos along to look at. So we don't get to see the photos, but the jury has seen the photos of the vehicle. And then this officer said later on he did go to David's home because he had some additional questions, and so he could get his report done. And David was very gracious, let him into the house, very cooperative, and he said, "No, I didn't really do any searching or anything. I just wanted to ask him a few questions." He didn't see anything out of the ordinary with David, didn't see anything out of the ordinary with the home. So, in other words, did you see any scratch marks or blood stains? No. So, when that officer was in the house talking to David, Ashley was there. Now, Ashley's 9 years old. She tells him, "Mom picked me up last night. I was at my friend's house for a sleepover, and Mom picked me up." Then David says she told him, I don't know if she didn't tell this officer, but apparently in a separate conversation that David had with Ashley said, "Mom put me to bed with Keely," but Keely was sleeping with him. I don't know. Because she said, "Did you and Mom go to bed after I greeted you at the door?" And she's like, "No, Mom just put me to bed and tried to put me to bed with Keely." So anyway, so when this officer's there asking him a question, David is showing him his computer. Like, "Look, see, here's all the text messages. I've been texting her. She's not responding." And then, so like I said, the house didn't show any signs of a struggle. No, nothing knocked over, no blood stains. He even looked in the garage, and no strong odor. Because if somebody has cleaned the garage floor with some bleach, because it's the prosecution's theory during their opening statements that David took her into the garage and bashed her head against the concrete. No evidence of it. No signs of blood, no strong signs of odor. If you've used bleach, it's going to smell like bleach for days and days. No, nothing, no scratches. He said David was very, very cooperative. Okay. And this officer knew them because he had been out to their house a few weeks earlier, like on October 7th. Now, this is October 30th. He had been out to their house on October 7th when one of their neighbors had poisoned their dog. Apparently, this neighbor didn't like dogs, and he poisoned 2 of the neighborhood dogs. One of the dogs died. The Swift family dog did not die, but that's awful. Anyway, so the next person on stand was Heath Walker. He was a sergeant with the Dyer County Sheriff's Office at the time. At this point, not working anymore. He had had a stroke, but was very communicative. I mean, he was able to communicate very well. In any case, he said the first call came in to 911 from Bill and Kathy. I can't wait to hear from Bill and Kathy, and you're going to want to know why. It's coming. Don't go anywhere because you're going to want to know why. Anyway, and then the second call came in from David right after that. So when he gets to the scene, and he starts to testify, "Well, I had this gut feeling," and he got cut off. There was an objection, and he wasn't allowed to say that. "Oh, you need to disregard that." Okay. "I had this gut feeling." So he called the investigator, who I said was out of town, and that investigator instructed him to secure the vehicle and have it towed. But he asked David, can I look at your house? And maybe I can see, can I just take a look around? And David's like, sure. So they walked back to David's house. It was within walking distance. Yeah. And then while he was looking around the house, he noticed in their laundry room, David had a reserve officer uniform hanging up there. So he started talking to him about being a reserve police officer. And he said whenever they were talking about Karen, he would look down at the ground. But when they were talking about, stuff like being a reserve officer, he'd be looking up and be all animated and, just his observation. So this officer, because there was no purse in this vehicle, no cell phones, they didn't find any of that stuff that you would take with you if you were going to leave the house. Even back in 2011, people carried purses and cell phones, not in their car, not in the house. So he calls dispatch and he says, call the, I don't know, I think it was Verizon, call Verizon and have them ping the phone, because David claims he only knew about one phone, but apparently he learned that night that she had two phones, one that had been given to her by Bill and Kathy. So one of the phones was pinging about 6 miles west of their home near this big cross in this cemetery in this river, west of the Mississippi River. So this officer also looked in the garage. No odors in the garage. Didn't see anything out of place. Nothing that, didn't see anything untoward about David. Scratches, no signs of a struggle, nothing that he saw in the home. Then the next person on the stand was the investigator, who, he said, I was out of town. I get a call from the sergeant. I'm told that there's a missing person. They're going through a divorce. And he's like, secure that vehicle and put it, then we'll have it towed to the crime lab at the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, which is what was done. But he said, but also you need to take photographs. So they had already done that. Then he said that I don't know if we're going to hear from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigator Crime Lab person that went through that vehicle, but apparently they didn't find anything. No blood in that vehicle. No evidence of blood. So he had learned that she had been at a Halloween party at a country club that night, the night of the 29th. And so they obtained a guest list and they had interviewed everybody on that guest list. Nothing. And they finally found those phones. Like I said, the Highway Patrol was involved in searches as well. They had TBI out there searching, Highway Patrol, the Dyer County Police Department, the Dyer County Sheriff's Office. Everybody's looking for this woman. They're having these big search parties, but the phones were found about 500 to 600 feet from the home in this wooded area. Now, I said before, near the Mississippi, where it pinged was over near this cemetery where she was actually found. But in any case, that was not for 40 days. Now they show parts of the police interview, and they interviewed David Swift twice, relatively close in time to his wife's disappearance. And you'll see, I always look at body language. You'll see during this interview, I'm going to play a portion of it so you can hear what he says happened that morning. And he's got his arms crossed like this. And he's got the crutches leaning up against the wall in the brace. And he explains why he's that way. I had surgery and blah, blah, blah. But he's got his arms crossed. And you know what that means? That means they're trying to protect something. This is a very adversarial. You don't want to be in that position. Anytime you're being interviewed, do not cross your arms, because the body language that gives the other person is that, whoa, you're going to be very defensive, which I didn't find him to be. Yeah. So listen to this portion of the interview.
All right, let's go back to Saturday morning and just start from there. How the day went.
Well, Saturday morning, she had actually Friday night we had even at our house we had a hayride and stuff for the kids, and we didn't know all this. Yeah, Friday night. So I got to get you Saturday morning, and I mean even under the circumstances, we've been still trying to be there, for the kids and still communicating, and so she actually had a girl that spent the night Friday night, and Reagan. Wheeler, I believe, Reagan.
Your daughter had?
Yeah, my daughter had a girl after the hayride, so she had a girl to stay Friday night. And then so Saturday morning I got up because Karen had a house to go clean over in Trimble. And so I got up and took the girls to skate, took my two daughters, Ashley and Keely and Reagan. And then I stayed there with them. We got there about 9:45 probably, and stayed there until 12. And then Ashley wanted to spend the night with Reagan, and so I said, well, that'd be okay. So Ashley went home with Reagan, and Keely and I came back home. We went to get something to eat or something. We came back home, and then we went over to Trimble where Karen was cleaning that house. And then Keely and I came home probably about 3 o'clock, and then she got home probably about 4:30, and 4:30 or 5, and she asked me. She said, "Why don't you take Keely to go see a movie tonight? I'm going to Kathy's."
This was Friday night?
This was Saturday night. Saturday night, yeah. And I said, so are you going to a costume party, or what are you doing? Are you all having a party? And she said, no, I'm just going to Kathy's. I said, well, okay. So I asked Keely, if you want to go see a movie. And she did it first, and then we got talking and everything. She'd rather me take her home or buy her toy or something. So I just wanted to take her so she wouldn't be upset because her mom was going out again. And so we left about 7 o'clock, I guess, 7 p.m. Saturday night. I took her to Walmart, went to Walmart, and went to the mall.
Did you buy anything at Walmart?
Yes, matter of fact. She wanted a toy. Let me see, this was 10:30. I think that was it. We went to the mall, or at Claire's. Yeah. That was the Walmart where I bought Keely. And then during Claire's night, I saw Bill and Kathy's neighbor, Jamie, and she was talking about the situation and everything that was going on with Bill and Kathy. She said, if you want to know what's going on, you can come to my backyard and you'll see what all was going on.
Okay, explain to me what the situation we don't know.
You don't know?
We've done heard that about 3 times, I guess. So.
From other people?
No, from you.
From me, yeah.
You keep kind of hitting on it.
Okay, well, probably Kathy owns Fine Arts Warehouse, Kathy Boner. And she, her and Karen became really close friends. Our daughters went there and danced, and then she was over there, all the time. Karen started, sneaking out of the house, and she would go to be with Kathy and Bill. And I know even this past summer.
And when you say go to be with them, when you go to party with them,
go party, and I find them naked in the hot tub in the backyard. I found Karen naked in bed with Kathy one night. This was once after Kathy's birthday party at the country club, and we all went over to Bill and Kathy's house. And Karen, there were several that just got naked in the hot tub. And anyways, we couldn't find Karen. And Robin and Alfred said, where'd Karen go? So she went in the house to go find Karen, but Bill Bono had already gone in there in the house. And so Karen said, Robin said, I'm going to go check on Karen. And Karen was so intoxicated she passed out. She was on the couch naked. And so we all went in there, and everybody's ready to go, and they had to get her dressed. Well, Alfred told me later that she prevented Bill from raping Kathy. Said he was trying to take advantage of her. And said she's the one that put the towels on her and everything. And after that all happened, I tried to pull Karen out of the situation. I said, listen, it's not good to be over there. I said, I see what's going on now. There's school teachers that were over there that was involved, Brian and Shannon and Lee. They were naked in the hot tub, everybody was. And I didn't think anything about it at first. I thought, and I just thought, but then when I realized what was going on, and I tried to pull Karen out of it, and then I caught her over there another time, naked back in the hot tub. And Dustin would come home at night, and I'd say, I need to go check on your mom, because there'd be times that somebody
So he explains that, he came down, he saw that he said what she was wearing, that he talked to her briefly, found out Ashley was okay. He goes back up to bed. And he said he gets up around 10 o'clock the next morning. She's not there. He texts her. He thought, well, maybe, she'll respond and I'll say, hey, can you get the kids some breakfast while you're out? She never responds to that. So he calls one of the neighbors. I've still got my arms crossed. So he calls one of the neighbors. Her name is Jennifer, one of Karen's friends. And he said, hey, are you home from, now it's about noon. You home from church yet? And she's like, yeah. He's have you seen Karen? And she's like, no, but when I was driving home from church, your car is parked down the block with a flat tire. And he's like, really? So he hoofs it down there, and there's the car. So he doesn't call 911. He calls Kathy and Bill. Hey, Kathy, Bill, have you seen Karen? And they're like, no. But while he's on the phone with them, apparently he's on the phone with Kathy. Kathy's going, well, Bill's calling 911 right now. So he calls right after that. He calls, and then they both meet the police at the vehicle. So this interview continues, and he's talking about all these different incidents. Oh my God. First of all, how they were struggling financially, that she was being sued by 3 different credit card companies because he says, I don't know where this money was going. I have no idea. She'd run up these credit cards and then not pay them. And he did mention, he was asked if he had a life insurance policy on her. He said no, he did not. Some of the stuff that he was saying about her was very salacious. Like he said he was always he was trying to protect her, and she was always sneaking out of the house, especially on Wednesday nights. I don't know what Wednesday nights was going on over at Kathy and Bill's house, but that was the night to be there apparently. And he would go over there, and he found her naked in the hot tub. All these people naked in the hot tub. Bill and Kathy and his wife and some other neighbors. And I'm like, whoa. We having a swingers party? What are we doing? Then he said he found her in bed naked with Kathy one time. Yeah, I don't know what was going on at that house, but she was always over there. Yeah, and she started drinking. He talked about how she was drinking whenever she went out. She was drunk, and she'd come home drunk. So I wonder if all this is true. I don't know if it's true or not. I guess we're going to hear from all these people that knew her that they're going to say that she was scared of him and that she's not who he's portraying her to be. I don't know. Anyway, there was a search warrant to search his house. They found some bottles of bleach outside on the grass, and they asked him, what are these? I don't keep my bleach outside on the grass outside my house. I keep it in the laundry room. But his was outside on the grass, and he was asked, why are these multiple bottles? I only buy 1 bottle at a time, and I don't even barely use that. So multiple bottles of bleach. And so his response was, well, the dog vomited in the garage. I had to clean up. They're like, oh, okay. They believed him. But there was no odor of bleach in the garage that anybody could find. So I don't know when this dog vomited in the garage or why you would keep your bleach outside in the grass. I have no idea. Several gallons. So they took a picture of it, and it was shown to the jury, but again, not shown to us, unfortunately. So they also took possession of phones, cameras, any kind of recording device that was in the house, a computer, and that was all collected and sent to the crime lab, the TBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigative Crime Lab. They found his divorce papers that he was served with underneath the spare tire in his vehicle. And the officer started to give his opinion. Well, I really think that's kind of strange. And the judge was like, no, disregard that. You're not allowed to hear that, jury. It is strange. What, you keep your important papers underneath your spare tire and your bleach out on the lawn. Okay. They even considered the guy that poisoned the dogs as a suspect. And he was very cooperative, and they took DNA swabs and everything from him. He was ruled out as a suspect. Then the next day, they do another interview of David Swift. And I found his story to be very consistent with the story that he had told the day before. I didn't find any inconsistencies in his story. He talked about this one incident where, and he talked about it the day before. She gets up in the middle of the night, and he's like, "Where are you going?" And she's like, "Are you going to Kathy's?" He said, and she's like, "No, I'm going to Walmart." And he's like, "Okay, what do we need at Walmart at the middle of the night?" And she's like, "Oh, we need groceries." And he's like, "Well, I can go get them." And she's like, "No, I want to go." So he let her go. So then he sends his son down to see, because she doesn't come home. He's like, "We're waiting and waiting. She didn't come home from Walmart. Late that night, she's not home." So he has his son to go check on her. And he comes back and he goes, "Dad, Mom's car, we looked up and down the aisle. She's not at Walmart, but her car's there in the parking lot." So he drives his dad to the Walmart parking lot, and his dad sits in the back seat of her Murano and waits for her. And sure enough, eventually, Kathy drives up and Karen gets out of the car. And she's like, "What are you doing here?" Whoops. Yeah. And then he said there was another time when she went to a trip to Nashville. Apparently, she had gotten a job at the YMCA with the Silver Sneakers program, and she was going to Nashville for some training. And she left early morning on a Friday, and he said she came back on Saturday and said she had forgotten her curling iron. And when he looked in her car, her panties were on the floorboard. And he says, "Well, why are your panties on the floorboard?" And it's where I keep mine. "Why are your panties on the floorboard?" And she gave him some kind of an excuse. Okay. So I don't know. This case is really crazy. And this is the second time. Wait till you hear this next story. And he goes, "And one time I found a glass dildo in her pocket." He goes, I thought it was a crack pipe. I didn't know. It's a glass dildo. And she insisted that I give it back to her. And I said, "What are you doing with this? What are you up to?" Give the woman her glass dildo. But why is she carrying it around in her coat pocket? That you're supposed to keep that in the drawer next to your bed, sweetheart. Okay. You don't carry that around. Okay. I'm just saying. Anyway. The phones that were recovered, because she had more than one, were tested for DNA, for David's DNA. Not on there. So 3 officers, lots of testing, lots of observations, nothing that incriminates David Swift yet. Now, I still have about 2 more hours to get through of yesterday's testimony, because they got a lot in yesterday. They're not playing. They picked a jury. Let's go. They're getting this case done. So I will update you tomorrow with the last 2 hours of day 2 and what happens on day 3 today. And I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.